When something you deeply wanted falls apart, a job, a relationship, an opportunity, it's not a punishment, it's protection. God sees what you can't. That closed door might be keeping you from heartbreak, danger, or a wrong path. If it didn't open, it wasn't meant for your destiny. One of the most important yet overlooked principles in both spiritual life and personal growth is the understanding of divine timing. The natural instinct for human beings is to control outcomes, fix problems instantly, and make everything align according to personal desires and deadlines. However, when you truly embrace the idea that life is governed by a higher plan, a plan designed by a God who sees the end from the beginning, you start to release the relentless pressure you place on yourself. Faith in divine timing isn't about passive waiting, it's about active trust. It's the belief that every event, opportunity, and even setback is happening at the exact moment it's meant to, orchestrated by a wisdom greater than yours. When pressure consumes your mind and heart, it often comes from unmet expectations. You thought you'd be married by a certain age, have a particular job, or achieve a milestone by a specific date. The frustration doesn't just come from the absence of these things, it comes from the belief that you've fallen behind some invisible schedule you assigned to your life. The problem with this mindset is that it assumes you know what's best for you better than God does. When you learn to surrender your personal timeline and embrace the divine one, pressure dissolves, and what was once a source of stress becomes a source of strength. A powerful truth to understand is that delays and detours in life are not denials. Many people mistake silence or waiting seasons as abandonment by God, when in reality, it is in those very moments that character, resilience, and faith are forged. A person's destiny isn't shaped in moments of easy progress, but in those seasons where nothing seems to be moving, and yet they choose to trust. Divine timing works on a different dimension than human logic. It considers not just your current desire, but your future capacity, your unseen needs, and the ripple effects of every decision in your life. What feels like a denial is often a delay meant for your protection and preparation. Understanding this transforms your purpose because it forces you to reevaluate what success and progress truly mean. If you measure your worth and future by worldly standards, quick promotions, instant relationships, or rapid wealth, you'll constantly feel behind. Divine timing centers your life around the idea that purpose isn't about speed, it's about alignment. When you're aligned with God's timing, the opportunities that arrive are sustainable, the relationships that form are nourishing, and the obstacles you face are purposeful. Every experience, whether joyous or painful, contributes to molding you into the person you need to be for the future you're meant to live. The emotional benefit of trusting in divine timing is equally profound. Anxiety thrives in uncertainty, and the unknown often triggers fear. When you accept that there's a higher hand guiding your steps, you begin to experience a peace that isn't based on current circumstances. You stop obsessing over when something will happen and start focusing on how you're growing while you wait. The waiting season then becomes a working season, one where you build skills, heal from past wounds, deepen your faith, and strengthen your character. You start asking, what is this season trying to teach me? Instead of when will this be over? Faith in divine timing also enhances resilience. Life will inevitably bring disappointment, but those anchored in the belief that nothing is wasted under God's guidance recover differently. A closed door isn't the end of a dream, it's a redirection. Loss isn't final, it's a setup for renewal. This mindset reduces the destructive emotional weight of failure because it reframes every negative outcome as part of a larger, beneficial plan. It doesn't mean you won't feel pain or disappointment, those are human and valid emotions, but it means you won't be consumed by them. Instead, You'll recognize them as temporary states in a divinely structured process. One of the most empowering aspects of faith in divine timing is that it removes the need for comparison. The world constantly tempts people to measure their progress against others, creating a cycle of envy and inadequacy. But when you truly believe your life is unfolding according to a plan uniquely designed for you, someone else's success isn't a threat, it's simply evidence that things happen when they're meant to. Their blessing doesn't mean your turn won't come. Divine timing allows you to celebrate others without diminishing yourself, because you're no longer in competition, you're in alignment. Ultimately, trusting divine timing isn't about abandoning dreams or lowering expectations. It's about living with hopeful anticipation instead of anxious desperation. It's about showing up fully in every season, whether it's one of harvest or one of waiting, knowing that each chapter has purpose. Faith in divine timing transforms pressure into purpose because it reminds you that what's for you is already written, and it will arrive not a moment too late or too soon, but precisely when it's supposed to. Life's storms are inevitable. Every person, no matter how strong, wealthy, or spiritually mature, will encounter seasons of difficulty, loss, confusion, or unexpected change. The mistake most people make is assuming that God's presence is confirmed only by calm, comfort, and ease. In reality, some of the clearest signs of divine support show up not when life is peaceful, but when it feels most unstable. The ability to recognize these signs is not about spiritualizing random moments, but developing spiritual awareness, the capacity to sense God's hand moving, even when your natural circumstances seem contrary. One of the clearest signs of divine support is the presence of unexpected peace in the middle of chaos. It defies logic. When bills are unpaid, relationships are breaking, health is declining, or the future feels uncertain, most would expect anxiety, breakdowns, or hopelessness. Yet, countless people have reported feeling a strange calm that cannot be explained by circumstances. This peace doesn't come from denial or ignorance. It comes from a deep-rooted trust planted by divine reassurance. It's a quiet voice inside that whispers, "I've got you," even when nothing externally has changed. This isn't ordinary peace, it's what Scripture calls a peace that surpasses all understanding. Recognizing this peace as a divine sign changes how you move through difficulty because it confirms that even though you can't see the way forward, you're not abandoned. Another unmistakable sign of God's support is the appearance of timely wisdom or insight. Life-faltering storms often cloud judgment and leave people feeling directionless. Yet, in those very moments, unexpected clarity tends to arrive. Sometimes it's through a scripture you've read 100 times but now strikes differently. Other times, it's through a conversation, a quote, a dream, or a moment of reflection that produces insight you know didn't come from your intellect alone. These flashes of wisdom often guide the next step, help release bitterness, redirect focus, or reveal a truth you were blind to before. Recognizing these moments as divine intervention allows you to discern that you're not left to navigate storms on your own intelligence alone. A higher wisdom is speaking into your situation. Divine support is also revealed through people, often unexpected ones. In your darkest moments, pay attention to who shows up. It's not always the ones you expect. Sometimes it's an old friend, a stranger, a mentor you barely know, or a person you cross paths with just once. They may offer a word of encouragement, resources you desperately needed, or simply a listening ear at the right time. These aren't coincidences. Divine orchestration often involves moving people into position to carry out acts of support you didn't even know to ask for. Recognizing these people as vessels of God's care reminds you that even in isolation, You're being watched over and provided for in ways beyond your immediate circle. Another subtle yet powerful sign of divine support during storms is the delay or prevention of certain outcomes you thought were inevitable. There are moments when everything should have fallen apart, yet it didn't. The deal you thought was closing against you stalled. The bad news you expected never came. The breakdown you feared didn't happen. At the time, you might have attributed it to luck or chance, but looking deeper reveals divine intervention. Often, God's support shows up in what doesn't happen as much as in what does. Recognizing these unseen protections reshapes your view of storms because you realize some battles are fought on your behalf in silence. Perhaps one of the most profound signs of divine support in difficulty is the resilience that refuses to let you quit. There's a strength that rises inside people of faith that cannot be fully explained by personality or discipline alone. In moments when giving up seems logical, something deeper pushes you to endure another day, attempt one more solution, or believe one more time. This resilience isn't self-generated, it's grace. The persistence to keep going despite exhaustion, disappointment, or pain is a divine force sustaining you for a future you cannot yet see. Recognizing this inner resilience as a sign of God's active presence shifts your focus from the size of the storm to the strength within you that refuses to die. Learning to recognize these signs takes intentional awareness. It requires you to pause, reflect, and train your heart to look beyond the surface of circumstances. Not every answered prayer comes in the form you expect, and not every blessing is immediately visible. Yet in every storm, God leaves mockers peace when there should be panic, wisdom when there should be confusion, people when you feel alone, withheld harm when danger seemed certain, and resilience when you feel empty. Recognizing these signs is how faith is strengthened during storms, because it affirms that God's silence is never absence, and his support is often disguised in ordinary moments with extraordinary timing.